Hi, my name is Christopher Perry, and today I'm going to go ahead and talk approach briefings as our subject of today's video. There's approach briefings we do every time we go ahead and do an approach into an airport. The purpose of this approach briefing is essentially to make sure that you have the proper plate that you're using for the proper approach. You know exactly what you're doing, the altitudes, the initial approach fixes, the final approach fix, where all of that's located, the missed approach points, and all of those things that are on the approach plate, so that you're prepared and you're ahead of the plane essentially. It's just keeping you on top of your game and making sure that it's a safe and productive flight and landing. So today, for my visual, I'm going to be using ForeFlight. I use it every single flight. All my approach plates are on here. I use this to go ahead and brief the approach. So today I'm just going to kind of go ahead and go over it. I'll show you the approach plate, and then I'm going to go ahead and just start with a standard approach briefing that I would normally give for an approach that I would do. So today I have the ILS localizer, or the localizer for runway 4 here at Lynchburg, Virginia. It's going to look like this. This is a standard plate that we would go ahead and use to brief. It has a couple different types of approach depending on what type of systems and availability of your equipment in your aircraft. So today I'm going to do the ILS, which is more of a, it's considered a precision approach. So today I'm just going to start from top to bottom and just go over. So if I'm in the aircraft, we're going to do this prior to being on the final approach course and hitting our first initial approach fix. So here we go. So first of all, I'm going to start at the top. We're going to go ahead and start is like the ATIS, which is our 119.8. One thing, if I haven't gotten the ATIS already, this reminds me to go ahead and get the ATIS or the weather located for that airport. That way we know where the winds are coming from. We know which runway to land on, because weather can change. I mean, I have the ILS for runway 4, but if the runway's changed, I might have to go ahead and do the RNAV for 22. I mean, it just depends. So ATIS, we get our weather information, we make sure we have that down. Then our approach controller is a Roanoke, which is 135.0. We're normally already talking to this controller if we're in the airspace around Lynchburg. Then we go ahead and make sure the rest of our frequencies are in line. That way, once we get passed on from Roanoke, we can proceed easily by just the switch of a button to make sure that we're on the proper frequency. So we'll have Lynchburg Tower, which is 127.65. We'll have ground, which is 121.9. And then if the airport is not open during normal hours and we're still trying to do an approach, we would use a Unicom frequency, which is 122.95. Up next, I'm going to go over the broad overview of the approach plate here. I would normally start in saying this is for the ILS or localizer runway 4 Lynchburg Regional Airport plate. On the side, it gives the time in which this plate is good for, and after that date it's then expired. So on the right hand side and the left hand side, it says 29 March 2018 to 26 April 2018. The plate's still good, and you're not allowed to really use these plates unless they're within that in the proper time frame, because something could have changed that could have been extremely crucial to you having a safe flight and safe landing. Up next, we then go to the side view. Basically, I go ahead and say we're going to start this approach at 3,000 feet. We'll then progress down to 2,900 feet at Lely, which is a point on the approach where we go ahead and transition. We'll then fly 2,900 feet to Sifbolt, and at 2,900 feet, we will then go ahead and start capturing a glide slope. This is a precision approach, so we use a glide slope method on this approach instead of a step down like stair process. So this, at that point, we'll go ahead and take the glide slope. We'll then progress from Sifbolt at 2,900 feet at our initial, our final approach fix will be then at 2,100, and we'll just progress down along that glide slope all the way down till our point, which is our minimums, which is going to be 1,105 feet. With this approach, there needs to be 2,400 feet of visibility. If we get to that point of 1,105 feet and we still don't have the runway environment, runway lights, approach lighting, or anything like that, we'll go missed. And that's exactly where we'll go back up to the top of the plate, and up at the top of the plate has the missed approach and what you're supposed to do if you do have to go missed for this approach. So I would then say climb to 1800, then climbing a right turn to 3,500 feet on a heading of 080. And the Lynchburg Vortac, which is the VOR, on a radial of 053 to swarm to the LYH 20 DME and hold. So this is basically, after we go missed, it takes us to a holding area to where we can either be contacted by Roanoke Approach to either see if we need to use an alternate airport or if we need to go in for another try. It's basically just a safe, productive way of making sure that you know where you're going, you're in a safe spot in that hold, you're just there circling around, and if you need to go ahead and recollect yourself and figure out what you want to do, it's a great place to do it. You get to that hold and you just hit the, honestly, you can hit the autopilot or fly it, hand fly it if you don't have the equipment, and you're able to go ahead and figure out what you need to do. After this, I go ahead, after I given all this information on the approach plate, I tell them once again that this is the proper plate, Lynchburg Regional Preston Glenn Field Airport, LYH, ILS, or localizer for runway 4. That's just to go ahead and confirm to myself and anybody else in the aircraft that this is the proper approach that we're supposed to do, and no doubt we have the right plate. Because if you do have the wrong plate and you're trying to fly an approach, things could go terribly, terribly wrong. So the approach briefings are there for our safety purposes. It's there so we can stay ahead of the plane. It's there to make sure that we have everything set up the way we need to. That way we can be ahead of the plane and have a safe and productive flight and landing, and make it back on the ground alive, essentially. So yeah, this is just a little tidbit about how we do approach briefings. Thanks again.